We are now joined by economist John Lott, the founder of the Crime Prevention Research Center. As always, John, thank you very much for taking the time.
Well, it's great to talk to you again, Larry. Thanks for having me on.
John, as you know, Paul Pelosi, the husband of Nancy Pelosi, suffered a severe injury when someone broke into their home, struck him with a hammer. He's going to make a full recovery, thankfully. But the left took very little time before they connected hateful right wing rhetoric to what happened to Paul Pelosi. You have pointed out that since the leak of the reversal of Roe v. Wade, attacks on pro life people exceed the attacks on pro choice people by a substantial amount. Talk to us about that.
Right. Well, I mean, nobody needs to take our word for this. We have the list at our website at crimeresearch.org, as well as links to the underlying news stories. I'd gotten interest in this to begin with because over the summer there was a number of news articles in NBC, ABC, all sorts of other places talking about supposedly increased violence that was occurring against abortion clinics and individuals. And so I found it strange that the articles didn't actually mention cases. So we reached out to the abortion groups that had put out the press releases, essentially, and asking them for a list. We asked multiple times. We got receipts that they had received our request, but they never would give us a list. So we reached out to the reporters who had done the stories, asking them if they had seen the list, and none of them had seen the list. It's not even clear to me that any of them even asked. You know, you've been around media for a long time. You know that one of the things reporters like to do is to give current examples to kind of put some flesh on the story, make it interesting, not just report the numbers. And so I was kind of surprised that the reporters hadn't insisted on trying to get a list. The Department of Justice does have a list of attacks against abortion providers, and they have no similar list for pro-life. But from May on this year, they only have one case that they list. They say it's comprehensive, and they update it frequently. They have more cases from past years. When the Biden administration went in there, they were very careful to try to get as many cases as they could. So what we did was we wanted to fill in the blanks. We did a extensive news search on this, and we were able to find 135 attacks against pro-life individuals or pro-life organizations. By contrast, there's only 6 against.
Hold on, John. 135?
Right.
I thought you were going to say 15, 20. 135?
That's what I thought it was going to be to begin with. I mean, as I say, people can check our list that we have. The thing is, and the reason why you're surprised and the reason why I'm surprised is because these just get local news coverage and often get just like one small story in a small local newspaper someplace. And look, I don't even think we got all 135. I mean, I think there are more out there just because seeing how hard it is even to find many of these cases. You know, when you have an attack that involves an abortion provider, it gets national news. You'll find some national outlets, probably multiple ones, that will mention it. But when you're talking about an attack on a pro-life individual, you know, you're lucky to get one small local news source on it.
John, talk to us about these attacks. How severe are they? Are they physical attacks? Or are they arson? Are they robbery, break-ins? What do you mean by attacks?
Well, for both abortion and pro-life, they're overwhelmingly property damage that's there. You know, so like the one case that the Department of Justice has brought a criminal case on from July of this year involved an instance where somebody had put super glue in the locks of a Planned Parenthood facility. You usually see a lot more than that when you're talking about property damage involving a pro-life organization. There was a number of cases that we have there where facilities were burned, where they were ransacked. People would break the windows and then break into the place and do really severe damage to the place. There's an organization called Jane's Revenge, which did a lot of property damage and would leave threatening notes. Just say, you know, this was a warning shot across your bow. If abortion's not safe, then your own personal safety will not be safe. And so there's a lot of threats like that.
Well, inflation continues to be a plague on our economy, our families, and our savings, and the irresponsible spending from the left just continues to exacerbate the problem. Larry Elder here. This year, we witnessed almost every kind of negative economic record, from empty grocery store shelves to 40-year high inflation. Do not let your savings wither away. Hedge against inflation with gold from Birch Gold. Visit LarryForGold.com for your free info kit on diversifying into gold. Plus, when you do it this month by Black Friday, get a free gold bar with every purchase that you make by December 22nd. With almost 20 years experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metal IRAs, Birch Gold can help you. Do not allow the left to devalue your savings. Visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Again, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account, and Birch Gold will help you do it. Once again, visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free info kit on gold and ensure your eligibility for a free gold bar with every single purchase. Secure your future with gold. Do it today. John, when you put out this information, what was the reaction? How widely disseminated, how widely published was your report?
Well, I mean, it was picked up in conservative media. Wasn't picked up beyond that. I mean, Fox had a story on it and stuff. But I have to tell you, Larry, this isn't the only time that we've seen this type of coverage with regard to the media. We've done a lot of work on mass public shootings, as you know. And one of the big things that the media and the Biden administration has tried to push is that there's some kind of, right-wing group that's going out and doing a lot of this type of violence. I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, there was the horrible racist attack at the Buffalo grocery store where the mass murderer was killing lots of blacks there. That he was classified all over the media as a right-winger or a conservative. You read the guy's manifesto. You know why he hated blacks? Because he thought they had too many kids, and he thought that having more children damaged the environment. He described himself as a socialist. He described himself as an eco-fascist. I don't know about your friends, but I don't know too many conservatives that are very upset when people have more kids or classify themselves as a socialist or as an eco-fascist. The same thing with the El Paso mass murder or the guy in Ohio, or even international cases. You take like the New Zealand one. All those guys I just mentioned were all eco-terrorists. Every single one of them had the same views about minorities having too many kids. The guy in New Zealand, who was worldwide described as a conservative, his number one government in the world that he admired was Communist China. He described himself as a communist and as a socialist. So, but somehow the media the thing is, if somebody is a racist, the media immediately classifies them as a conservative. And, but you could just take these individuals at their own word that's there. Look, the vast majority of people who do these mass murders are just people who want to commit suicide. They want to get attention. They know the more people they kill, the more attention that they're going to get. They have no kind of political axe to grind in the vast majority of cases. But, the media has, just like with the Paul Pelosi case, I mean, there you had a crazy guy. The woman who had been with him for 15 years described him as very progressive on almost all issues. He was an Obama supporter during the Obama administration. But the guy was a drug addict. He was homeless. He lived in a bus that had a Black Lives Matter sign and a gay pride sign there. It's just they want to go and fit these things into a certain narrative. It's part of the whole January 6th, whatever. Look, is the January 6th riot bad? Yeah, sure, of course it is. And everybody that I know condemns it. But what about the Lafayette Square riot that occurred in the summer of 2020, where you had over 100 law enforcement people seriously injured, where you had the church burn, where you had people scaling the White House fence that were there, and people having to take Trump into a secure place so he would be protected? or the riots that occurred at Trump's inauguration on January 2017. You had dozens of people who were sent to the hospital who were Trump supporters at that time. And yet the media doesn't view any of those things in anywhere near the similar light. There's a real imbalance. And the abortion case, unfortunately, again, paints that picture that we've had all these riots, but they want to try to discredit conservatives as being the real danger.
John, final question. Have you done a similar study on, let's say, since Trump had become president, because after all, Trump fanned the flames of white racism, to find out when there have been attacks against people for their political ideology, have there been more attacks against conservatives versus liberals?
We've gone back 25 years in terms of looking at mass public shootings. And to be honest, I really can't see a trend one way or the other in terms of the motivations for these guys. If anything, I would say most of the environmentalists have been in the last 6 or 8 years. Those are the ones, but generally they're not a huge percentage of the total. But if you're going to put weight on it, I'd say it's been the environmentalists that have been the ones that have started showing up more now recently than you saw.
John, I more meant like one-off, like the thing that happened with Marco Rubio, a canvasser in Hialeah, Florida. He's in a neighborhood and he's told that we don't want any Republicans here, and he's beaten up. I'm talking about those kinds of things. Is there any reason to believe that they're happening more against conservatives than against liberals?
I haven't done a systematic look on this. I'm sure my view may be similar to yours. You're hearing more about it now in the conservative media. You're not, the types of case you just mentioned doesn't get national news coverage in the same way. And my guess is there's probably more of it, but I haven't done a systematic look.
And John, I take it you have not been invited on Today's Show or Good Morning America or The View to discuss your information about the attacks against pro-life organizations versus abortion providers. I suppose you haven't exactly been invited on any of those shows yet.
I don't know. Maybe my phone's not working, but I appreciate you having me on, Larry. At least you have me on. So thank you.
As always, John, thank you very much for coming on. John Lott, Crime Prevention Research Center. John, we'll talk again.
I hope so. Take care.
You got it. It is time now for Meme Time. Biden claims MAGA is dangerous, but he doesn't seem to care a whole lot about left-wing violence. We had 4 months of violence on the streets of America in 2020 after the death of George Floyd. And as I mentioned, no evidence whatsoever that Derek Chauvin did what he did because of George Floyd's race. In fact, the lead prosecutor, a black man, in his opening statement, made it very clear the police in general were not on trial. The Minneapolis PD in general was not on trial. This individual was on trial, yet there were 4 months of mostly peaceful riots. And did Biden connect the rhetoric of anti-police, defund the police, systemic racism to what was happening in our streets? Over 25 people killed, over 2,000 police officers injured? No, he did not. Now, thankfully, this doesn't run on diesel. Notice the economic wrecking ball, left-wing propaganda, out of order, effective November 8, 2022. Here we have the president and the vice president working on their Build Back Better plan. I'm not so sure it's going to be built better or even back. Be sure and hit that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to click on the description below so that you can be put on our mailing list. Because believe it or not, we have been demonetized by YouTube. If you don't want to miss any of our videos, make sure you click on the description below. Don't forget, first half hour, gratis. Second half hour, you have to be a member. So, epictv.com to make sure you subscribe and you can watch the entire program.